divided. A road was made in the sea for the people of God to pass. God spoke to Isaiah again, Moses. This instruction is, sorry please, I have a little headache. That is the end of the homily. I believe in God.
All right. First and foremost, I'm going to say all praises be to Yahweh Shimon Shai Bashem Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shalom to the sincere elect teaching the truth and faith and sincerity. I saw this video here like online, and people, turned this into a meme, right? And it says, when you mistakenly invite a baddie, quote unquote, to church, and there's people who find this kind of stuff funny, but like I don't find it funny, and brothers don't find it funny. We find this wicked. But when I was watching this video, it just highlighted more and more why, starting off with the apostles and elders on down, right? Why we don't have a school, and why the apostles have always said, look, man, if you if you teach your really and truly, it's better to have a lady or wife that doesn't know the truth, and just simply she's just playing her part in life, like around you, but if they for some reason do end up hearing about this or do learn, the apostles have always mentioned that the best thing is if they somehow do find out and they end up wanting to ask you a few questions and do learn, that they can learn at home, right? We don't need to have them with us in schools and in buildings, and this brother's wife knows that brother's wife, and that brother's wife knows this brother. It's just like all of that mixing spirit, because one, women are wicked, and they're wicked too, you know what I mean? And it's like, of course, the actual scripture speaks about, how what is it? 1,000 out of a 1,000 men, only one righteous, and out of 1,000 women, if I'm not mistaken, you couldn't find none. But the point is, when you have men and women mixing, someone down the line, right, could lead to temptation, man, and like an adultery, like it happens in workplaces all the time. Men and women, they're just in the same kind of team. They're just mixing around. Some shit ends up happening, man. Especially in these black churches, especially in some of these Israelite camps. We've seen stories of IUIC in recent times. Dudes sitting next to like a brother, but he's getting nudes from the lady, or sending nudes and talking dirty whilst they're in the congregation wearing fringes. You know, we've heard all of those stories about, I mean, our apostles back in the day, of things that used to take place in, like in the school. Ladies spreading STDs, man. You know, this is why we don't have these schools and women mixing with men and all this, bro. Just don't, I mean, like, just don't bring them around, man, because things happen. You know, certain individuals given to wicked lust, and then before you know it, sin comes forth, man. Right. So anyway, let me play this clip. But before I do, first scripture I'm gonna get is I was trying to find the scripture in particular. Yeah. This is Ecclesiasticus. Let me Sirach 31 and 13. Let me do 11 to 13 GNT. Let's see how it words it. Let's see if it words it any different. All right, this is okay, bro. Just hold on. Let me. Yeah. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna just read here. This is Ecclesiasticus 31 and 13. What is more wicked than an evil eye? Therefore it will weepeth upon the occasion, right? And it says here in context, Sirach is warning about greed, envy, and covetousness, describing the evil eye as one of the most destructive inward traits, because it stirs up jealousy, lust, and strife. And in this context, right, you know, this is why we don't have these grand schools and that, because all that's gonna happen is stuff like this in this video.
A road was made in the sea for the people of God to pass.
Now, of course, because it's a movie, it's kind of, like a bit much in how it's showing it. But these things take place in churches, man. In these schools, and all these things happen. A pair of people given to that lustful spirit, and then end up, doing all manner of shit. Dudes having their way with people's wives within the school building, or going into their car, why? Because these are things that they ain't supposed to be doing, man. Mixing around and shit.
God spoke to Isaiah again, Moses. This instruction is, Sorry, please. I have a little headache. That is the end of the homily. I believe in God.
You see? Now, again, people posted this online as a meme to it's funny. But to be honest, I don't find it funny. I find it wicked. But this is why we don't mix with, these, churches, man. And have these schools where you got men with women, because it all just brings confusion, man. Right? This is Ecclesiasticus 14 and 8 to 10. The envious man have a wicked eye, and he turneth away his face and despises men. A covetous man's eye is not satisfied with his portion, and the iniquity of the wicked drieth off his soul. A wicked eye envieth his bread, and he is a miser at his table. And then ChatGPT goes is often tied to envy, greed, or ill intent, and it's like this context of like an evil eye of being covetous can obviously be applied to adultery. In terms of man bringing his wife to church, to a church that's just got men and women all around mixing. And then, she might come across another man and be like, ooh, this man's taller, got a better beard. And then this other dude might have a look at her and look at her shape, and, especially if she's wearing a certain kind of dress or clothing. You know what I mean? I remember back in, when I was in the world in church, right? I remember when I was back in the road in church, world in church, there was a day where a man brought his wife or his partner or a girlfriend or whatever it was to church, and she was wearing like a leopard print dress, like, but a tight one where you could see the outline of her breast and her body. Now, I was only like, at the time, I can't remember, maybe I was like 13, 14, and it was sat right in front of me, and even me at that time as a young, boy / man, I was like 13, 14, around there. It was hard at the time to not look as a kid, and if that was me, like at that time, being 12, 13, 14, how much more the pastor and that's why we don't deal with that confusion, man. That's why we here at Great Millstone don't want that confusion, and why the apostles use their experience to say, look, man, we don't need to see your a woman or whatever it is. If they do want to learn, or they do learn anything, you teach them at home. You see? This is 1 Corinthians 14 and 35. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home. For it is a shame for women to speak in a church. And it's like, yeah, for such reasons is why that's supposed to happen. Learn from their man at home. It just cuts out a lot of confusion. Right? Sirach 99. Sit not at all with another man's wife, nor sit down with her in thine arms, and spend not thy money with her at the wine, lest thine heart incline unto her, and so through thy desire thou fall into the destruction. Yeah, and in these churches you actually see that happen all the time. The pastor goes, the wife goes into a marriage counseling meeting, you know, with the pastor there. And then the pastor's there saying, you know, yes, you know, what your husband did was wrong, you know, was wrong, you know. And then now, you know, she looks to that pastor as like a man of authority, because obviously women obviously have a high pergamous nature. So she just there looking at him, you know, oh yes, pastor, you know, yes, it's true. What my husband did, you know, was wrong. You know, why was the up close and personal, having personal uh, conversations, man, staring at it, like, you know, staring at you know, each other like in a person's, you know what I mean, kind of eyes. And obviously she's seeing Pastor how every lady in the church likes him, you know. Pastor's also got like a bit of money. He's wearing them suits, you know, expensive perfume, expensive cars. It just leads to adultery, man. You see? You know? So that's the point anyway, man. Like, you know. 1 Timothy 2:11, let the woman keep silence in the church with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but be in silence. So that's why, you know, as well, you know, it's like, you know how you're having these black churches, you know, women lead a group and women leading other women and all of this, or try to exercise authority over men. It's just like, the way you cut out that confusion is just simply a, you know what? Stay at home. If you want to learn of your man. Simple. You know, it's much easier, right? This is Titus 2:4, that they may teach the young women to be sober, love their husbands, love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, obedient to their own husbands. See, now if you have women in these churches mix and these schools mix, they'll start, you know, telling personal conversations and tales. Yeah, you know, this brother, you know, you see him as this, but at home he does this. And then you know, girl, I think you should leave him, girl. All of these little confusions, which is why we don't have that school building and all that, because all you're gonna have is just you're just gonna hear some wickedness, man. All right, 1 Timothy 5:14. Now therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, and give none occasion to an adversary to speak reproachfully. You know. But yeah, man, you know, I just wanted to do a video on that clip. You know, even scripture speaks about the man that committed adultery with another man's wife. You know, which is what happens in these schools and these buildings, man. You know, dudes, you know, there, women's eyes wander sometimes. Well, a lot of the time, men's eyes wander at times, and then it just leads to just evil, man. Which is why it's sound advice from our apostles for us to not have these physical buildings, man, where men and, you know, this brother's wife knows that brother's wife knows this, and then before you know it, you know, someone's eyes wanders, and that's all she wrote, which obviously is wickedness, man. So yeah, I just saw that clip online. I wanted to bring it out with that hope and pray it was an edifying video. with that, I say, praise be to how Bashima Shai Bashima Kakudash, double honors to the apostles and elders, great most on to this time. I'm going to say, Shalom.